Forests and forest landscapes are vital for our survival. They're an important source of life-giving oxygen and are vital storehouses of carbon. Forests help build more resilient landscapes through water flow regulation, soil improvement and maintenance for agriculture, protection of coastal communities from extreme events and sea level rise, and act as migratory corridors for plant and animal species. Forest landscapes are vitally important in addressing climate change and achieving sustainable development. Centuries ago, more than 70% of Sri Lanka was covered with forests.
The forest cover of the country at present is 29.7%. It was 71% in 1881, and after that it has become 44% in 1956. Thereafter it has become 33% in 1992, and at present it is 29.7%.
There are several reasons for the loss of forest cover in Sri Lanka.
Number one is encroachments by people for agricultural lands and settlements. And number two is for infrastructure development. And number three is for agricultural ventures, because this includes large-scale agriculture. And the fourth one is localized factors. Localized factors include the unique factors which is depending on the community needs as well as the development.
We must understand what these natural forests are to begin with, the composition of the natural forest, because the functioning of these forests depend on how they are composed.
Basic science like the water cycle, how much water evaporates, how much water goes into the ground, how much water runs off, what type of forest and what type of plants can affect the water cycle.
Degradation and loss of forests and forest landscapes results in serious consequences that affects us all. Loss of biodiversity, disruption of the water cycle and river ecosystems, soil erosion, leading to disasters such as earth slips, floods, droughts, and global warming are some of the results of degraded forest landscapes. Restoration of degraded forest landscapes, or forest landscape restoration (FLR), is now increasingly used globally as a strategy to counteract the devastation caused by the loss of forest cover.
Forest landscape restoration, meaning you used forest in a landscape. Landscape can be a river basin or a small area that you can identify through a political boundary. And then restoration means you identify the lands that are degraded or under deforestation, and then come together with different stakeholders and then come up with a plan and implement the plan and monitor the plan in a way that you reap the benefits of the restoration and monitor it and prevent the land degradation and get all the other environmental benefits in climate change, biodiversity.
There are different types of forest landscape restoration methods. These include planting trees in degraded forests, natural regeneration, agroforestry, and analog forestry. Other restoration activities such as post-development restoration, removal of invasive species, riverbank restoration, and mangrove restoration can also be used to restore degraded forest landscapes.
First, you have to get the landscape ready for restoration. Restoration needed in the lands that are degraded or deforested. So, in order to prepare that landscape, you have to do certain erosion control things, do soil bunds, and then create certain structures and bring certain type of plants initially. Then you bring the real long-term vegetative types to do either agroforestry or analog forestry or any type of models that are suitable for that particular landscape, so that in the long run you generate a condition that will minimize deforestation impact and also the degradation impact.
Forest landscape restoration can be achieved using different tools. One of the world accepted tools available, which has been developed by World Resource Institute and IUCN, is called ROM. ROM is a better tool for Sri Lanka to adapt in order to get FLR plans in place.
Sri Lanka has set a target to increase the forest cover up to 32% by 2030.
Sri Lanka, under the Paris Agreement, has promised the world to plant 210,000 hectares of green cover. Sri Lanka is a party to the Bonn Challenge. The Bonn Challenge is a global effort to bring 150 million hectares of the world's deforested and degraded land into restoration by 2020 and 350 million hectares by 2030.
To achieve this 32% target, we have to reforest about 150,000 hectares of the total land area. Up to now, during this past 5 years period, we have brought 9,500 hectares of deforested lands under this forest restoration activity.
Over the past decade, Sri Lanka has pioneered several FLR initiatives to restore degraded forest landscapes. The government, private sector and civil society organizations are currently engaged in a number of restoration projects.
We have invited private sector organizations to join with Forest Department to implement forest restoration program. We help private sector organizations to identify lands, to prepare project reports and to implement the plans. To build the trust among us, Forest Department is willing to sign MOUs with private sector organizations. Private sector organizations do replanting and assisted natural regeneration on degraded forests. So under replanting, they plant around 600 seedlings per hectare and they maintain and manage those plants for 5 years. In addition, that they protect the land from forest fires and other human interventions.
Forest landscape restoration should not be limited to rural landscapes. It can be used in both urban and rural areas.
Forest landscapes can be in urban patches. So we can do a lot of landscape associated with forest in Sri Lanka, and then the benefits will be it will have dust control, it will produce more oxygen, it will take out the temperature increase coming from climate change, and it will reduce the electricity bill in homes and the offices, and there are multiple benefits. There will be more flowers, more bees.
To expand FLR initiatives in Sri Lanka and make a lasting impact, different financing options need to be explored. As a first step, ecosystem services provided by forest landscapes need to be valued.
When we consider about forest, actually there are new definitions that are introduced to value the forest ecosystems. For example, we consider the concept called the total economic value in this context, and under that total economic value we have use values, which is the mostly known value type, like people extract things from the forest, the direct extractions. But in addition, there are other things like the recreational values.
Restoring forest landscapes provides a wide range of benefits, from conserving biodiversity to disaster risk reduction and climate change mitigation.
Once you get the green cover going through the forest landscape restoration, definitely you are going to see the increase in the water flow patterns in that area. That serves the power generation and the household users, agriculture, all that. Then you have the increased pollination and other yield increasing type of benefits coming through in the whole area.
To successfully implement forest landscape restoration programs in Sri Lanka, We need a transformational shift in the way the country uses its natural resources. A multi-sectoral approach is needed to ensure participation of a wide range of stakeholders. These include government agencies, private sector companies, civil society organizations, universities, schools, and community members.